Welcome to the Stone Cold Truth. Today is Saturday, March 25th, 2017. I'm your host, Tyler Nixon, with, co-host, I should say, of course, the man himself, the man whom the Stone Cold Truth is named after, Roger Stone, is going to be joining us shortly. It's been a crazy week, lots of action in Washington on Capitol Hill, as well as, of course, the House Intelligence Committee hearings, in which we saw basically the Democrat defamation artists at work. Much ado about nothing, inflating charges, scurrilous charges against Roger and others, frankly, based on no evidence whatsoever that anyone has presented. It's really, really amazing to me that these people get away with this, frankly. It reflects what the Democrats have been for years, which is frankly just liars. They make anything up that they want. I mean, the fake news is really just the media extension of the Democrat Party and its hardcore leftist leadership at this point. There are no more moderates. There is no dissension. There is no divide within the Democrat Party, within the Democrat congressional ranks. It's purely leftist, purely vituperative, purely attack, purely megalomaniacal. They absolutely lust and thirst for power, will do anything for it. That's why I think we've seen this collective insanity going on. I think they really lost their minds when Donald Trump won, and they lost Congress. They were so hepped up and hyped up to be in charge once again and riding high with a good old Hillary in the saddle. They actually believe their own BS, I guess, as Barack Obama once said about himself. And he certainly does believe his own BS, and few other people do, I think, outside, again, of the hardcore ranks of Democrat leftists. We're going to be going through some of these, what I call the rogues gallery of Democrats who have coordinated, particularly on the House side. The Senate's been a little less disgusting in its defamation of people like Roger Stone, Paul Manafort, and others, anyone involved in the Trump campaign or in the Trump universe. But it's just, if you watch the House Intelligence Committee hearings, it really is a disgrace, I think. It makes McCarthyism, it gives McCarthyism a bad name, if that's possible. And of course, McCarthyism giving Joe McCarthy a bad name, because McCarthy, in a sense, in many ways, was correct in the end, despite his tactics. I think he went a little overboard, but Joe McCarthy was right. There were communists, there were infiltrators within our government, there were high-level leftists who were essentially traitors. Alger Hiss coming to mind, of course, brought to light and exposed by the very much mentor and former boss of Roger Stone, my distant relative, President Richard Nixon. And brought to light McCarthyism. Really, nowadays we have the exact opposite. They manufacture completely. Really, these are, in the original sense, the original definition of McCarthyism, the current Democratic Party they are truly McCarthyites. They invent facts, they invent news, they invent anything they can to get themselves in the spotlight, to create this fog of, and the appearance of fog. It's smoke and mirrors. I mean, you can't even say smoke has substance to it, actually. It's more of a fog. It's more of a mist, a gray, putrescent mist that they emanate, frankly, from Capitol Hill, from their perches, wherever they may be, led by Nancy Pelosi, the whack job of all time. Really, this person, Nancy Pelosi, it's very sad, in a sense, to see people hang on to positions of such lofty power as, the House Democratic leader, when they really are in the early stages of dementia. Either that, or they're really not on the right meds, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. And it really boggles the mind in many ways what they're able to forward and get this echo chamber going within the mainstream media, Fox News being really the only respite. I mean, it's kind of a joke that Democrats would attack Fox News for years and years and years. I mean, you don't see that too much anymore because I think they know they played it straight. Fox News has. Fox News certainly does on the commentary side, on the political analyst side, have its biases, no doubt about that. But if you watch, for example, Shep Smith in the middle of the day, as I've occasionally caught, you would absolutely be disabused of any notion that Fox News is completely in the tank, for example, for either the GOP, for conservatives, or whatever the case may be. You watch MSNBC, it's so bad, folks. Oh my God. It's just, I've tried to drop into MSNBC sort of just to monitor what the enemy is doing, I guess you could say. And I caught Lawrence O'Donnell the other night, and it was just unbelievable. Devin Nunes, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, obtains information to the effect that, yes, the president-elect had been surveilled after the election, had been surveilled, incidental surveillance, as they would like to call it. I don't care what kind of surveillance. You know, the bottom line is that we know that there are very crafty and devious folks who have access to these levers of power, who are part of this combine of intelligence and underworld, sort of underworld in the sense that they're hidden from view. They operate behind closed doors. There's a lot of coordination going on. You frankly see it with the Democratic Party, with what they've come out with in the recent weeks. It's very coordinated. They send their flacks out like Adam Schiff, this cad from California, the bug-eyed weirdo who stands up and just announces that Roger Stone has been coordinating and cooperating, whatever, with the Russians. No evidence whatsoever. You have a single exchange between Stone and this Gusever 2.0, who's not even definitively proven to be a Russian anything, much less that they know the identity of the person. I would say, based on what I've seen, it's probably a 50-50 chance that Gusever 2.0 has Russian contacts or is a Russian front. But Schiff stands up in the hearing, and we've got statement after statement in the transcripts of the House committee hearings in which Schiff, this guy's all Sawwell, I can't remember his name, from I believe it's Virginia, some young upstart congressman who just peddling garbage, pure, unsubstantiated, fact-free garbage, speculative. They are just trying to muddy the waters. They are trying to throw chum in the waters so that the media sharks who do their bidding can circle and continue to push this, and anything at any price, any cost, doesn't matter who the casualties are, to sabotage President Donald Trump, to sabotage his agenda, to sabotage what he said he was going to do and promised he would do. In the election, he promised to the American people such things as health care would be Obamacare, the Obama monstrosity, the Obamanation healthcare system would be repealed and replaced. Personally, I think it should just be repealed. I think what we had before was better than what we have now, even with its all warts and all. But interestingly, the House Intelligence Committee has these hearings, and we see all this Sturm and Drang surrounding, the Russian collusion in the Trump campaign, right in the middle of attempting to repeal Obamacare. And the Democrats sit back fat and sassy, proud of their handiwork, proud of their evil deeds and their defamation campaign against people who have nothing to do with the Russians any more than your average Joe in the street would have anything to do with Russians. I mean, when you go and onto Twitter and have a private exchange with someone who's a hacker weeks after this hacker released documents from WikiLeaks or similarly, that would indicate basically pulling the mask off the reality of the Democratic Party and mainly the Clinton campaign, John Podesta being one of them, how backstabbing and cutthroat they are, how there's no honor among thieves, and exposing their dirty laundry. Donna Brazile, who recently had to finally come clean about her feeding questions to the candidate before the town hall and CNN. All this stuff, but brought out really disgustingly, and it's just trash in the water. So you're listening to Stone Cold Truth on the Genesis Communications Network. We're going to be taking your calls here in the next hour or two. Roger Stone will be with us shortly. And here he is, the man himself.
This is Richard Milhouse Nixon.
straight wanted by the House, wanted according to Adam Schiff and his cohorts, wanted like he's a fugitive from the House Intelligence Committee, the man himself, Roger Stone.
Welcome back to the Stone Cold Truth. We had a little technical problem there where President Nixon and his nephew were talking at the same time. But Tyler's essentially right. I am delighted to be with you because there's nothing better than waking up in the morning and seeing two freshman congressmen kicking your testicles around like a couple of footballs. But that's the way I feel. I'm a big boy. I understand politics. I think this is a rough and tumble game, and it's not for the weak-hearted. And I would certainly be among those to admit I have sharp elbows. But there is one trick that is not in my bag of tricks, and that would be treason. I have been stayed up late last night to go through the transcripts of this kangaroo court that they called an Intelligence Committee hearing, and it just has echoes of 1954. Mr. Schiff, the junior congressman from California, who always seems to seem rather bug-eyed and upset, asking James Comey, for example, are you aware, do you know who Roger Stone is? Comey says, yes, generally. Are you aware that he was a partner of Paul Manafort? Not sure what that means. It's kind of like, are you now or have you ever been a partner of Paul Manafort? I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, but then it goes down from there. So are you aware that Stone has acknowledged having directly communicated with someone that the intelligence community has assessed as a person of intelligence? Schiff, false. Never said I directly. Okay, there's one. Schiff, I mentioned before that Mr. Stone was in direct communications with a creature of a Russian CRU, Crucifer 2.0, and that's something intelligence assessment talked about. Schiff, wrong. Never said I was in direct communications, and you can say it as many times as you like, but far more people believe that Crucifer 2.0 is not a Russian asset than believe he is. You can go on the internet. This has more opinions than the Kennedy assassination. So you can keep saying Crucifer is a Russian, but there is no proof of that. That is a theory by the Central Intelligence Agency. I have other favorites here that I just can't leave out. Like, did you know whether the Russian intelligence has dealt directly with WikiLeaks or whether they too are using an intermediary? Assume two meaning like me. We have assessed some kind of cutout. They didn't deal directly with WikiLeaks. In other words, Comey, you have nothing. Sorry. Try this hard. Let me say it slowly in case the director's listening. WikiLeaks is not an asset of the Russians, never has been, does not receive their information from the Russians. The hacked material from the DNC did not come from the Russians. It came from Crucifer 2.0, who posted that and claimed credit for it on his Twitter feed. Another one of my favorites, Mr. Schiff. If Mr. Stone acknowledged Mr. Podesta's time in the barrel was coming in August 2016, would that have been prior to the public release of stolen emails of Mr. Podesta? Yes, that's the correct chronology. Accusation, no proof. Speculation, conjecture, BS, but no proof.
And grandstanding at that, Roger, because Comey said right out of the gate that he was not going to discuss or answer questions about individuals, particularly you, and that was the line of questioning. And Schiff just went on and kept asking the same questions. You know, it's if you run a legitimate inquiry and you're asking Comey legitimately these questions, he said, I'm not going to answer specific questions about a specific person. Schiff just went on, which is basically just using that platform to defame you and to grandstand. These guys are.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, It's just the other one is that the WikiLeaks aspect. I mean, Trey Gowdy, thankfully, at least, was the only person. I don't get, like, it was a complete Democrat congressman after Democrat congressman in this hearing.
Well,
now, I don't know if they just wanted to let them have their due, but Trey Gowdy said it. He said, we're talking in some cases about quadruple hearsay here with nothing to back it up.
And that's why we should continue. Again, Mr. Schiff from the hearing. Roger Stone, a longtime Trump political advisor and self-proclaimed dirty trickster. Well, I'm not sure I proclaimed that. I may have accepted it. As you know, one man's dirty trick is another man's political participation. But continuing, boasts in his speech that he has communicated with Assange and that more documents would be coming, including an October surprise. In the middle of August, he also communicates with, the Russian Cutout 2.0, and authors a Breitbart piece denying Grusfer's links to Russian intelligence. Sorry, Congressman, you have the order wrong. I wrote on August 5th for Breitbart News how exactly the DNC hacks went down. I wrote that because I was tired of the Russians did it theme being falsely put out by the Clinton people. So it was an antidote to that. And I spoke to Christopher, but communicated by Twitter only 6 weeks later. So the good congressman has the order of events completely wrong. Completely wrong. What do you think, Tyler?
Well, I don't think facts matter. I think, again, as I said in the opening segment, this is just to put out their murky, putrid mist. Not even a fog, really. Like I said, it's not even smoke and mirrors wouldn't do justice. It doesn't, is an insult to smoke and mirrors because smoke has at least some level of substance to it. This is a foggy mist of nonsense, lies, and fabrications. Typical projection from the Democrat Party and the Democrat scum, frankly. I don't hesitate to use that word about them. They are scum. They are liars. They are defamers. And I don't say this, Roger, because I've known you, because I'm friends with you, or because I necessarily support you in any way. This is because this is just rank injustice. This is an abuse of power. They get on their high horses there and constantly in front of the press. And I mentioned Lawrence O'Donnell the other day, the other segment, and he was on MSNBC immediately after Chairman Nunes, who, by the way, is a courageous man to take on this combine of Democrat media defamation, because you set yourself in their crosshairs. Look out. And Nunes went to the president and said, you were being surveilled after the election, even whether it's incidental or otherwise. And O'Donnell got on his show that night and talked about how Nunes had blown his credibility and he had no credibility left because he had gone directly to the president.
Speaking of no credibility, the guy with no credibility would be O'Donnell, because in all honesty, when you see him, trust me, most of the time he's so drunk he can't stand up. We will be right back with the Stone Cold Truth here on the Genesis Communications Network. We're going to tell you about why the whole Russian scam relates directly to the surveillance and the Watergate-type bugging of the President of the United States. Stay tuned.
This is Bernie Sanders, and you're listening to The Stone Cold Truth with Roger Stone.
Welcome back to the Stone Zone. We are broadcasting here at Stone Cold Truth. I'm working with my longtime friend and compatriot Tyler Nixon, great grandson of one of our greatest presidents, but in his own right, a very formidable advocate in the courtroom and a longtime Republican libertarian activist, and generally speaking, a bon vivant and a good man to have over for dinner. In any event, I want to continue these Democrat atrocities. Mr. Schiff, this
Roger,
fellow.
let me jump in here real quick. We're going to take the listeners' phone calls, and I want to invite everyone to call in, and we'll take your questions. And Roger would be glad to answer your questions. It is 877-300-7645. 7645. Again, that's 877-300-7645 to call into Stone Cold Truth. Roger, proceed.
Yes, we want your questions because I'd like to hear what other people think of this. Mr. Schiff now speaking again to the hearing. Quote, so I want to look briefly at one of these individuals. And Director Comey, I understand your constraints, but let me ask you a couple questions regardless. Paul Manafort, who is Roger Stone's business partner. I want to ask you a few questions about him. Paul Manafort and I have not been business partners for almost 35 years. Another lie. Now you have some woman congressman from Connecticut, and she says, now in terms of understanding all this, I think of a spider web and with a tarantula in the middle. And the tarantula, in my view, is Putin, who is entrapping many people to do his bidding and to engage with him. And I would include those like Roger Stone, and she goes on to say Carter Page, Michael Caputo, who's probably so happy his name got mentioned he can't stand it. Wilbur Ross, she's just accused Wilbur Ross and Rex Tillerson of being controlled by Vladimir Putin. Irresponsible. This congressperson must be required to apologize. Now, going into some congressman from Connecticut named Heck, and he says, we've heard quite a few individuals in the Trump orbit who feel somewhere on the spectrum from mere naivete, disturbing enough if this naivete is a feature of those who are supposed to be running our country in foreign policy, to being unwitting Russian dupes, to be willing blindly to active coordination. This rogue includes those already fired, Roger Stone, and so on. Well, let's see. The congressman who's in his first term wants to talk about experience. I've been around 40 years. You are in your first and last term in Congress. But in this sentence, you have specifically accused me of being a willing dupe and an active agent of Vladimir Putin. That's defamation. That's reckless disregard for the truth. So my invitation to all these Congress people, including that pretty boy Stillwell from California, the the one-term surfer boy who I predict will not have a long and illustrious career in politics, who says even if Stone testifies before the committee, he will lie. Waive your immunity. If you're all so certain that you're right, waive your congressional immunity. And we'll let the third branch of government have a say in this matter. These people have acted as demagogues. They have been engaged in mudslinging, red baiting. And as you'll go to Stone Cold Truth today, there's a story on the corruption of Mr. Schiff. Mr. Schiff is so busy pointing fingers at Russians, he forgot to mention his big fundraiser with the Ukrainian arms dealer last week. And on and on. So please go to Stone Cold Truth right now, stonecoldtruth.com. You can read a terrific new article we've just posted on the incredible corruption of Adam Schiff. Tyler, a Tea Party group in Schiff's district has asked me to come out there and speak, and I may do so. The idea that these congressmen can draw your reputation through the mud on national television and then not give you any equal forum to respond, well, that just isn't America. That's not how it works. I mean, I think you would tell us one of the most fundamental precepts of American jurisprudence is that people are allowed to see the evidence against them and face their accusers.
Absolutely.
They have no evidence. They have no evidence, and they have beat me up in a public session. So yesterday, my lawyers, as you may have read, told the committee that I would be more than happy to testify voluntarily, and that I really want this session to be in public. That's where I was slimed, and that is where I should be allowed to rebut. Why don't we take a question if we've got somebody standing by?
We don't actually at this point, but I'll
don't
give the
everybody
number.
Rush. Don't everybody
not
rush.
all at once. 877-300-7645. And again, that's 877-300-7645 if you want to call in to speak to Roger Stone. And Roger, you speak of experience. It's interesting. I had the privilege of working for Newt Gingrich. I began work with him as staff assistant in August of 1994. So to put that in context, you're talking the eve of the contract with America. As I arrived, you had Barry Jackson, Joe Gaylord, all these guys preparing the contract. They were going to launch it. They launched it. They won the election convincingly on a very clear agenda. I spent the next 6 months probably after that fielding calls from angry people around the country who were ginned up in their outrage by the absolute outright lies of the Democrats that they had peddled in the public constantly and consistently with their typical, as I said, their putrid mist, smoke and mirrors type stuff, where it was, you're going to take my Social Security because so-and-so said so. It amazes me that over almost 25 years later, that they have this young crop of BS artists who engage in the same type of defamatory, lying, just anything they can get. And by the time the truth comes out, it's all over with. I mean, one example comes to mind is David Bonnier. Just a nasty little man from Michigan who was, if anybody remembers Dave Bonnier, he was the one who filed these hundreds of ethics charges against Newt Gingrich, only one of which in the end stuck, and it was much ado about nothing in the end. And what's funny is being someone who was a firsthand witness to what was going on the inside, what the legislation was that was being proposed, following what Newt was saying in public and privately and otherwise, and then seeing how it was so distorted and lied about by that generation of Democrat politicians, and to see it done today, and knowing you as I do, and knowing what a crock it is. I mean, we're in touch regularly, Roger. I think I'd know if you were colluding with the Russians, certainly.
Here's another one of my favorites. Senator Mark Warner, quote, "Listen, if we're investigating Russian interference, there's someone who's acknowledged he's been in contact with the Russians," referring to me, said Mark Warner. I have never acknowledged that. It is a falsehood. And then you have our friend, Congressman Eric Swalwell, the soon-to-be one-term congressman from California. He says, "I'd like Roger Stone. I'd like Carter Page. I'd like the head of Donald Trump's security team in front of the committee. People who are in his orbit and who have personal and financial ties to Russia. That would not be me. You just lied, Congressman. You just accused me of something that is not the case."
And by the way, Tucker Carlson nicely dismantled that punk Congressman Swalwell, or whoever he is. I believe he's from Virginia. But he said that this is an act of war, Swalwell. And Tucker said, "Well, okay, so what do we launch? Medium range, or what missiles should we launch at Russia? Are you proposing war with Russia?" You said it's an act of war, what was done. So, these guys have taken it. I mean, they have exaggeration and hyperbole. It's beyond belief that these people are public officials.
So when we come back, Tyler Nixon and I will continue to slice and dice the demagoguery of the House Democrats, but it's time to move not only to your calls, but to the big picture. What exactly does this whole phony Russian meme have to do with the wiretapping, Watergate style, of the President of the United States? Stick with us at the Stone Cold Truth, and we'll be right back with the answers.
This is the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and you are tuned in Roger Stone on the Stone Cold Truth.
Welcome back. We're the Stone Cold Truth, broadcasting from the Stone Zone. You can follow us online at stonecoldtruth.com. You can also tune in to my InfoWars gig where I sit in for the great Alex Jones. A major piece this week by Peter Stone formerly of the National Journal, claiming that the feds are now investigating Infowars.com and other conservative websites to see if they received assistance from the Russians. This is yet another witch hunt without foundation. The idea that Alex Jones needs the Russians to pay for bots to put his links out there is about as laughable as the future of Adam Schiff in politics. I mean, this is taken on a Kafkaesque quality here that is almost beyond belief.
Well, let's get to Robin in Texas, who has been very patiently holding to speak to you, Roger.
All right.
Robin, you're on the Stone Cold Truth.
Well, hello. I have one question I had was, unless I've missed something, has there been a shred of evidence of any wrongdoing show up anywhere yet? And then my other question is, you're volunteering to go before the Congressional Committee, and this is one thing I'm confused about, is if you do that, will you have the opportunity to make a statement? Will you only be able to answer the questions they ask you? And I guess that's my concern, is even if you go before them, will you really have the opportunity to state your case and ask them questions?
You raise an excellent question. I have instructed lawyers to insist that I get an opening statement. Why? Because they each got one. You see, they slime me in their opening statements, which is why I should be allowed to make an opening statement, which is pretty much the norm for congressional witnesses. I would be less inclined to go there if I'm just going to answer questions framed by them, although, frankly, they're so intellectually inferior and they so misunderstand and misrepresent the subject matter. Proving their multiple lies would really take about 15 and 20 minutes. I mean, someone like Schiff really should not be in public office. The people he represents need to know how fast and loose he is playing with the truth. And again, intrinsically corrupt in the pocket of an Iranian arms dealer, yet strutting and going back and forth on TV about the Russians. I mean, this guy is a real pain in the neck.
Well, I call him Shifty Schiff, but
yes.
That's a good one.
He really is. And it's amazing if you watch him in his body language, like you're pointing out. That's what blew my mind, sitting here in Texas and watching some of the coverage. And one show, I believe it was Charlie Rose, had Schiff, and it had Peter King by him. And then I was just like, just watching the editing of it is so frustrating, because you want the truth. You want people to be able to have equal time, I guess, and to absolutely speak the truth.
Well, Peter King, who I've known for, 15 years, is a man of judgment and character, and a man who picks his words very carefully, very widely respected in the Congress by both Republicans and Democrats as a straight shooter. So the juxtaposition of putting him through this demagogue slasher, Schiff is almost laughable. To go back to the first thing you said, which is the most important, yes, there is not a single iota of evidence that shows that there was any collusion by anyone in the Trump orbit with the Russians. But that's how the big left works. Say it over and over and over again to try to make it a fact. It is not
absolutely.
a fact.
If you say it enough, then it'll be widely accepted as the truth because of people who just hear tidbits here and there and do not research it. And then the other question I have is, I sit here when I hear all this, and I'm actually embarrassed in a sense, because I think the Russians are probably laughing themselves, just it's all laughable. I can't imagine what we look like on the world stage because of this unbelievable just interest and focus on this supposed Russian connection when there's no evidence.
Well, I think the Russians do espionage, I guess, fairly well. At least that's what I have read. They don't really understand American politics, but the truth is, Vladimir Putin had more than enough blackmail information on Bill and Hillary and the Podesta brothers, having put so many millions of dollars into their pockets in various deals well beyond Ukrainian. If he wanted a blackmailable president, he would have been for Hillary.
Oh, absolutely. And I agree.
This whole thing is projection. In other words, viciously attack your opponents for doing what you are doing. John and Tony Podesta and Hillary Clinton made literally millions off of their connections with the clique of business people around Putin. And then they woke up one day and they said, I had a great idea. Let's accuse Trump of being in bed with Putin. who he's never even met. So this has been the great chutzpah of this campaign. I understand that Joel Gilbert and Dr. Jerome Corsi are working on a short documentary to show you exactly who it was that was in the tank with Vladimir Putin. And let me give you a hint. It wasn't Donald Trump.
Robin,
absolutely. Yeah.
We appreciate your call, and call us again sometime, and stay warm there in Texas.
Oh, absolutely. And I look forward to hearing his explanation of what he was talking about before the break, about why this is really happening.
I am happy to get that. Do we have another caller, or shall we keep barreling right on through?
Well, let's give the number out again so everybody knows where to reach us. 877-300-7645. Again, that's 877-300-7645. To reach the Stone Cold Truth and speak to Roger Stone. Ask any question; he will tell you no lies. So, Roger,
Tucker, it's interesting to me that right now, anyone who wants to understand this whole Russian question in much greater detail than I could do here on the radio, you should get the book, The Making of the President 2016. Tyler, you yourself helped me edit sections of this. As you know, the entire Russian backstory is there. It's almost like I anticipated this little clump of insanity from the Democrats. So if you want to know if I knew about John Podesta's emails being hacked in advance, I didn't. And you want proof, it's in the book. If you want to know what I meant when I said Hillary Clinton, the beginning of the end starts in October, it's in the book. All of the lies being told about improper activities by the Trump campaign are debunked in The Making of the President 2016. But of course, it's also much bigger than that. It's an examination of the big picture trends and instinctual moves that Donald Trump did to pull off the greatest political upset in American history. So go to Amazon, go to Barnes & Noble, go to StoneColdTruth.com, go to RogerStone.com. I hope you will grab your copy. Of the 5 books that I have written, this is the one that I think is the most exciting. It is certainly the one that is most timely. Again, an insider's perspective on how Donald Trump pulled off the greatest upset in American history. Tyler, have you read it yet? I know you edited parts of it, but have you read the whole book?
I have not. I've gotten through 2/3 of it, and I have to say, just when you had sent me the portions to edit, Roger, I have to agree with you that it is really a page turner, and probably is definitely your finest work so far. I really was riveted to it, and frankly proud to know you as a friend in terms of just as a literary person and as a writer and as a political junkie myself, that you have really outdone yourself on this book. And I think I would be glad to help you. And if you want to do it, I think you need to begin writing the sequel, because the drama going on right now is almost it's the continuation of the campaign.
Well, I would call the sequel From Russia with Love, except for Peter Schweitzer wrote a terrific monograph by that title, which outlines the corruptions of the Clintons and the Podestas not so very long ago. And I salute that particular publication. It was used seminally in my book, The Clintons' War on Women. So stick with us here at the Stone Cold Truth. You're going to hear more about the wiretapping and the Watergate-style bugging of our president, Donald J. Trump. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the Stone Cold Truth here on the Genesis Communications Network. We're talking politics, we're talking Trump, we're talking Russia, but more importantly, we're going to talk about the illegal surveillance of the president-elect of the United States. To understand the extent to which Americans are being spied on, we are bringing in Dr. Jerome Corsi, to my mind, one of the best investigative reporters alive today. Dr. Corsi has recently become the Washington bureau chief for Infowars.com, and already he is setting the pace by publishing and posting some block-breaking, newsworthy stories. Dr. Corsi, you blew the whistle on a massive government surveillance program that began under Bush, continued under Obama, and we now know, because we have indelible proof, included spying on future President Donald J. Trump. Why don't you lay this out for our listeners?
Starting out last Sunday, Roger, we published in InfoWars the Operation Dragnet, which was an NSA wiretapping operation that started in 2004. And we had data that went to 2010, and Donald Trump showed up in this multiple times, that being wiretapped from 2004 through 2010. It was Donald Trump, his family, his wife, his employees, various buildings, the golf course manager. I mean, it was extensive. And this was a database that I got from Sheriff Arpaio, Maricopa County, his chief negotiator, investigator, Michael Zulu. And the information had been released in federal court. It was available. It's just that, it had been largely ignored. And we went through the database specifically with Mike. We looked for Donald Trump, and we were astounded to find it. And what that did is it broke the wave on this narrative that the Democrats were running, that Donald Trump was not the subject or target of any investigation of electronic surveillance. And this database made it clear that since 2004, the NSA was all over electronic surveillance of Trump and his family and his businesses, and there's no reason to ever believe it stopped.
So fast forward that now, you have what I think is an extraordinary situation where the FBI Director Comey and the NSA Director Rogers have both now testified under oath, and they both said there was no evidence whatsoever of surveillance at Trump Tower. And then what happened? Take it from there.
Well, the testimony on Tuesday, after I wrote the story, the story was still up all the way through till Tuesday on Drudge, which made a huge impact with Drudge. Then I'm told by CIA contacts that when FBI Director Comey and Rogers testified, for NSA, various people within the intelligence community were so offended, so outraged that Comey and Rogers had lied, giving the American public the opinion that the feeling that there had been no electronic surveillance of Trump during the presidential campaign. That very quietly they whistle blew. They put together intercepts and went over and brought it to Devin Nunes, who is the head, the chairman right now of the House Intelligence Committee. And this intelligence was so shocking to Nunes, including raw intercepts, which showed that Trump had been picked up in electronic surveillance, certainly in the transition period, and that various of his aides had been unmasked, in other words, named, which is a real no-no. NSA is not supposed to name any USA citizen picked up in electronic surveillance in a target, say, of a foreign citizen. That name's supposed to be kept under wraps. Citizen 1, Citizen 2, they're supposed to be reported as. And evidently the information was so shocking that Nunes felt compelled to take it to the president so it wouldn't be suppressed. But that information had widely been disseminated within the Obama administration and appears to have been leaked such that it was the cause of General Flynn losing his job. Now, that would also be a crime, both the unmasking and the dissemination of the unmasked information within the White House and leaking it to the press. That's a series of very serious crimes. And Nunes was shaken by it, and I think next week, following, Nunes is supposed to get this week a full file on the electronic surveillance of Trump that we now know was conducted during the campaign. I expect it's going to be shocking for the American people, and the Democrats are going to have to go on defense.
And, Jerry, isn't there some question about the subsequent misuse of this data?
Absolutely.
Evidently, as I understand it, if U.S. intelligence catches up because they're monitoring a foreign national but they find them in a conversation or an exchange with a U.S. citizen. They're supposed to mask that name. They're supposed to protect the identity of that citizen consistent with their civil rights. And it appears that they have not done so.
Right, they unmasked a number of names. The names that remained masked, you could figure out who they were, which is also a problem, and they disseminated those lists. What also appears to be the case is that Judge Napolitano was right. We have had a long-standing agreement with the intelligence agencies of Great Britain such that if we want to, in the United States, get electronic surveillance on the citizen and we can't make them a target, Great Britain might do that because Great Britain now is targeting a foreigner, the U.S. citizen, can share that information with the NSA and the CIA, and likewise, reciprocally, if Great Britain intelligence agencies want to spy on a British citizen, we might do it for them and share the information. We have these kinds of
There's actually
relationships.
One very historical example of this, and that is the FBI asked the British intelligence services to surveil former President Richard Nixon in 1963 when he was in Hong Kong. They believed that the woman he was consorting with, who they claimed was a Chinese prostitute, may have been an agent for the Red Chinese. So British intelligence actually came in and they surveyed Nixon and this gorgeous Chinese woman through the window of a hotel room. And nothing else was heard about it. It went into a file. In 1968, 2 days after Nixon was elected, he meets privately with Hoover. Hoover pulls off the fire, shows Nixon the pictures of him with the Chinese woman, and says, "Mr. President, you don't need to worry about these. They're safe with me."
Yeah, right. Well, that sounds like the Hooverite do it, Bob.
And LBJ was wiretapping Nixon as well because he's accused of treason as a result for the back channel with the Paris Peace Accords, wasn't it?
But in this specific case, Hoover elected to go to the Brits so there'd be no fingerprints. He was smart enough to say, if it gets out that we had a former vice president under surveillance, it'll be a big scandal. So I'm just trying to demonstrate what Jerry is saying is absolutely true. It's the same thing that was done in rendition. Because you don't want to violate U.S. law and you don't want disclosure, you just go to a third-party nation and have them do their dirty work for you.
Yes, and I think it's becoming clear that this was all a democratic, really quiet, just almost silent or hidden coup. That they started. There's Podesta emails now released where Podesta's scheming with various, operatives in the Democratic Party to frame Trump as a Putin operative, and then Hillary starts coming out with information that there's a computer linked in Trump Tower to a Russian bank. Well, how did Hillary get that information? Where is it from?
Let's come back to that on the other side. We'll be right back with the great Dr. Jerry Corsi. Many thanks for joining us at the Stone Cold Truth.
This is Richard Milhouse Nixon, and the Cold War may be over, but the Stone Cold Truth is still around, and I give you my buddy Roger Stone.
Great-grandfather Nixon sounds really good. Roger, I can't protest too much, but just to set the record straight, I seem to be coming closer and closer in my relation to former President Nixon with every show. I guess I'll be his distant son next.
All right, your illegitimate father, former President Nixon. Anyway.
Well, I tell you, Dr. Corsi is a scintillating, incisive guest. And Dr. Corsi, we appreciate your taking time on Saturday to join us here on Stone Cold Truth.
Oh, sure, no problem.
I am one of those who has believed now for some time we had a slow motion coup in place here, that the deep state was going to do everything possible to avoid first Trump actually being sworn in, And they did that. People have forgotten. First, we went through a phony recount. Then we went through these ridiculous appeals to the Electoral College in which Podesta demanded they be briefed on the Russian crimes, of which there are none. And, Jerry, I know you think that this was a military coup. Lay it out for us.
Well, I think it started out as an intelligence coup. And the Podesta, around December 2015, in the emails, is shown to be talking to a Democratic operative about framing Trump as in his buddy relationship with Putin. And it evolves. Hillary starts talking about in tweets that there's a computer at Trump Tower that's linked to a bank in Russia. Information that seems she had to have gotten from intelligence. Where else would she know that? And as it goes along, they start developing this Russian, the Russians did it. The Russians conspired with Manafort. That was the issue that Manafort resigned over shortly after the Democratic convention. And then Roger, the attack shifted to you for contacts, things you commented about. Podesta was going to get it next, which I think we've demonstrated was really a result of the research I was doing with you to go after.
Had nothing whatsoever to do with WikiLeaks. I predicted that his time in the barrel, that means his time under public scrutiny, would come, and it did. Right. Based on an incredible set of articles that you did. You showed me a memo of all the things we had been talking about and all of the various crimes and scams he was involved in. I specifically remember saying, Jerry, this is overwhelming. Could you just put it in a memo? And the memo you gave me at the end of August was devastating. And every single one of those things came out either through your own reporting or the reporting of others who were basing their start on your material. So this notion that Stone had foreshadowing of Podesta's emails, I didn't say hashtag WikiLeaks. It didn't say hashtag Julian Assange. It's conjecture, speculation, smear. That's what that is.
Well, and Roger, it's continuing until today that the determination of the Democrats is to say, I believe, that Trump, who brought a beauty pageant to Russia and was very involved with trying to sell his vodka in Russia, was now conspiring with Russia to throw the election. And Podesta and Hillary, I believe, thought that in this intelligence coup they could even demand the information be brought to the Electoral College. The Electoral College would be so shocked they would prevent Trump from being sworn in. And then their illusions, Podesta and Hillary thought the alternative would be to let Hillary be sworn in, even though she lost the election, trying to delegitimate Trump's win by blaming that this was all, it was really a secret agent of the Russians. And this, I think, was an intelligence coup that is going on until today, where the Democrats end up attacking now both Paul Manafort and you again with no evidence, but yet continuing this narrative of collusion with Russia. We're making a major attempt in the Nunes hearing to the House Intelligence Committee to continue to argue that Trump is an agent of the Russians and they stole the election by hacking Podesta's emails and releasing them, among other things. But
I think it's very important people understand exactly what's going on. Let me try to connect this all together. The entire claim of Trump associates or Trump campaign collusions with the Russians is the rationale and the justification that the government used to spy on me. According to the New York Times of August 20th, myself and two others are under wiretaps, and then later to spy on Trump. Now their problem is, as it becomes clear that there was no Russian collusion, their rationale is exposed as a fraud. We now know that the reason they wiretapped, or I should say surveilled Trump Tower, was for naked political reasons, having nothing to do with Russia or treason. That's why the panic has set in. They're about to be busted. Comey, and Rogers perjured themselves before the Intelligence Committee. They said there was no surveillance. We now know there was. They must stand perjury charges for that. They have to be. I think the president would be justified in firing Comey right there. He's caught in an indelible, stone-cold lie. And either Nunes was very clever in letting him hang himself before he made this information public, or he learned it after the hearing. Either way you look at it, taking it directly to the White House is an act of courage. Don't give it to Adam Schiff. His patriotism cannot be his loyalty to the committee in the process cannot be trusted. He puts partisanship ahead of facts. So why would you give it to him? By the way, Congressman, if you don't like it, pound sand. Go ahead. Don't go to the hearings and then see how that goes. So the tantrums by the Democrats here as they see their whole criminal conspiracy collapsing, it's kind of fun to watch.
I think Nunes realized that the information he had, which was leaked to him, whistleblowers, after Comey and Rogers' testimony, I think the shocking part was that Nunes realized that there was an intelligence coup, and he had to warn the president that, there's an effort to remove you from office going on. That's what this intelligence surveillance was all about. It was continuing even through the transition. And what are they trying to find out in the transition with the continuing electronic surveillance? And remember, Watergate was not about a breaking into an office. It was about a wiretapping of the phone of O'Brien, who was the head of the Democratic National Party at the time. And this also appears to have been equivalent to a break-in and wiretapping that was aimed at electronic surveillance now, very broadly at Trump and anyone associated with him, yourself, Roger, Paul Manafort, anyone that could be drawn into the net where the Democrats were trying to really suggest treason on everybody's part, conspiring with the foreign power, Russia, to throw the election where Hillary would lose. And they thought they could actually either impeach Trump or prevent him even from taking the oath of office by bringing the information to the Electoral College. The record is all right there.
Yep.
The timeline.
Let me jump in here. There you have it, the Stone Cold Truth, as presented by Dr. Jerry Corsi, the Washington Bureau Chief for InfoWars. Dr. Corsi, thanks again for joining us, and stay tuned for more of the Stone Cold Truth.
This is Bernie Sanders, and you're listening to The Stone Cold Truth with Roger Stone.
And we're back here on The Stone Cold Truth. I'm your co-host, Tyler Nixon, with the raconteur of our century, Roger Stone, discussing the deep state politics, no longer so deep anymore. It's been brought above the surface by crazy, defamatory Democrats. Adam Schiff, Representative Adam Schiff, who looks like a frightened chinchilla half the time when he takes to the mics in front of the cameras to announce his latest fabricated outrage against the Trump administration.
It's really amazing here. Just watching this guy is he attacked Chairman Nunes for going to the White House with evidence of surveillance of Trump Tower. And he attacked Nunes because he said he was leaking classified information, and he was doing so without informing the rest of the committee. Then 2 hours later, he is announcing that no, he has now seen hard evidence of Russian collusion. In other words, doing exactly what he has just accused Nunes of doing. So let's say it again. Schiff, you're a four-flusher. You have nothing, zero. You're making it up, and you're going to be humiliated. And then I'm going to go to your district because it's crucial that the people in your district in California know what you are. I don't think you'll be there long, to be honest.
That would be great if they could get rid of him. I tell you, I'm coining the new catchphrase to when someone is a dirtbag. They're a piece of Schiff.
Yeah, that's not a bad appellation. Let's get a few more calls in here if we can.
Sure. The number is 877-300-7645. Again, 877-300-7645 to call in and speak to Roger Stone live. And we're going to have Travis Irvine coming on actually towards the end of this segment. He's going to give us a little bit of a man in the street view of all this craziness, the Democrat defamation artists troweling their garbage into the public consciousness, hoping that some of it'll stick. I mean, it's their MO. It's been their MO, I think, really since the Clintons came to power. Just muck up the waters, throw in the chum, see if the sharks come. If not, the garbage scow will come along. And it's just, what's with California, Roger? I'm a member of the State Bar of California. I love, it's in some places very much paradise to live there. But my God almighty, they have stunk up Congress. Between Pelosi, this piece of Schiff, and this Jackie Spire, it's just a complete leftist freak show. I mean, these people make Alinsky look like a moderate.
It's pretty sick. And then you juxtapose it with the great people that I have met just this week. I mean, we had an incredible house party in Altamont, Florida. Outside of Atlanta, outside of Orlando last week. House party put together by my friends Jacob Engels and his friend L.A. She did an incredible job. This was the day after I was in the hit-and-run accident. Tyler, there were 500 people there.
Wow.
It was just an outpouring of love of people dedicated to this president. So some have suggested. Do we have a call?
Yeah, we do. We're going to get to Steve in New Jersey. Steve, welcome to Stone Cold Truth.
Oh, hello. Thank you. Hello, Roger.
Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I consider myself a libertarian. I do my part here. Just a couple things. On the, it is a source of amusement. I work at a rather large company, and there are some Russian immigrants, and we get quite a bit of the laughs, from all of this. And I think they see right through it, and we're always joking a bit and having fun with it. So I just want to let you know that. The other thing is you referenced Podesta as being hacked. But I think he was a dupe of phishing, which, people in the corporate world know that, that's a pretty dumb thing to do. They have a lot of training on it, and, you're not supposed to do that. So it's just evidence of the lack of understanding of even basic security.
Well, his password was password. How hard was that?
A real genius.
Yeah, a real genius. It is the entire misuse of technology in this campaign is kind of amazing because, in fact, the Clintons really did pioneer how to use the internet in American politics in their earlier campaigns, and then they seem to have forgotten everything they learned. I still go back to the resources question where I think those supporting Hillary, all told, hard money and soft, probably spent around $2 billion. Then you have the value of being pounded on by CNN all day. If those were political commercials, which they are, what would they be worth? Hundreds of millions more. We now know that YouTube and Google and others were fooling with Trump's logarithms to limit his reach and his ability to communicate. So Trump was screwed in the old media. He was screwed in the new media. And he still won. There is the miracle in itself. He still won.
Amen. Steve, we appreciate your call.
You're welcome. Have a nice day.
Sure. Have a good weekend. So I think we're waiting on Travis Irvine here, and
I want to continue what I was saying before with that great call.
Okay.
And that
actually,
is,
we do have Travis with us, unless you want to continue.
Well, let's bring Travis in. Why
sure. Not? Travis, what's the word in the street, my friend?
Hey, guys, good to be with you as always. I actually was covering this issue for media this week in the street in front of Trump Tower. And, got the full range of reactions, really. You got a lot of folks visiting New York City. You got a lot of New Yorkers here. And a whole range of expressions from people on this whole issue. There are obviously some people who want it to be investigated. I think, if there is no wrongdoing, then it's fine to investigate it. But essentially, a lot of people are also out there in the streets saying, well, hold on, why don't we have better relations with Russia? I think that's a legitimate question. And, of course, what's fascinating about all of it is like you guys have mentioned, the deep state is front and center now, and it's been this way since January. Roger noted it. All the different points in time in the last few months since Trump was elected, all the different times that they tried to stop it, whether it was through the Electoral College or the recount, and now it's essentially deep state versus the Trump administration. And any good American who, obviously we need the CIA there, an apparatus, but the deep state is out of control. And I think a lot of people on the streets want to see this thing confronted.
Yeah, it's self-immolation by the Democrats and the sort of deep state intelligentsia, if you want to call it that, in that they're exposing all their secret furtive networks and the way they do business in terms of like spying on people. They're exposing it all in order to take down Trump. It's just it amazes me that they're that frankly willing to burn it all down, in other words, for this short-term political expediency. And I'm glad for it, frankly, because that's the big story, is that you're spying on even our presidential candidates and just doing it blithely, and then it gets leaked out through his opposition. So the Democrats are very cloistered in their minds. They have been for years. And the bottom line is that it's that way. It's been that way ideologically, and now certainly I think it is tactically. And
now we know for an absolute certainty that Hillary Clinton tweets days before the election that computer scientists have found picked up a computer that is in touch with the Russian bank working out of Trump Tower. Yesterday we found malware in Trump Tower that could mimic that effect. Busted.
That's right. Well, Travis, we're gonna carry you over to the last segment here, and we're also gonna throw open lines for calls. If anybody wants to get in a final phone call, 877-300-7645. Again, 877-300-7645 to get onto the Stone Cold Truth with Roger Stone and Tyler Nixon, and of course joining us, Travis Irvine, and then we'll have Roger's parting thoughts as well. Unless Roger, you have any in the 15 seconds we have left for this? Okay, I'll take that as a no. So you are listening to Stone Cold Truth here on Genesis Communications Network. Don't go away.
This is the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and you are tuned in Roger Stone on the Stone Cold Truth.
Rolls on in our final segment, and we're going to get right to the phones. We've got the phone lines lit up. We're going to get first to Mark in Illinois. Mark, welcome to Stone Cold Truth.
Hey, my name's Mike.
Mike, sorry about that.
My name, but it's okay. I just wanted to ask you guys, I'm a little worried about President Trump right now, this health care fiasco. I was disappointed he supported such a cruddy bill, and I think he got a little too close to the Republican establishment. And I'm worried about who's advising him to go down this route. And I'm also concerned that he's not moving too aggressively against his enemies. I haven't seen anything. I think he's getting bogged down by the political pressure in Washington. I just wanted to ask you guys where you think this all goes from here and how you think he's doing in this battle.
Sure. Thanks for your call. We appreciate it. Roger?
I share the second part of your concern. I really do think he needs to move against those who would seek to thwart his presidency. I believe he should convene a grand jury and start asking questions, or at least have his attorney general start asking questions about the surveillance of Trump Tower to get to the bottom of what really happened. Healthcare, I must say, Paul Ryan sure had quite a defeat yesterday. It's a shame the way his bill went down. I'm sure President Trump can come up with a much better bill now. In other words, Trump's a pragmatist. This isn't a defeat. It's just a setback. Now, it is a setback, but now perhaps we can come back with a better bill that Paul Ryan doesn't have his grimy little hands in. This bill was written in Ryan's office, transmitted to Ryan's priebus, and given to the president. I know that for an absolute fact.
Yeah, and the fact that they wanted to buffalo it through so quickly, rush, I think really indicates that it is not the best product we can come up with.
What's the hurry? What's the hurry?
We've been living with this crap for 7 and plus whatever years, Obamacare. I mean, it took that long for it to settle in. Let's take our time. time. I agree. I got to say, Senator Rand Paul has really emerged as an excellent leader on this front, saying, look, let's repeal first. Let's start with repeal. Let's not force our way, shoehorn in some Obamacare light so that the insurance or whatever executives and corporate interests are being served by Paul Ryan's, little establishment cabal in there that doesn't really care about President Trump's fate. And, I think President Trump played it very well. But let's get to Scott in California. Scott, you're on the Stone Cold Truth. Welcome.
Hi, how you doing, guys? I'm calling just for a simple thing. You know the mandate that Obama put on where you can't purchase any insurance only but in November and through January?
It's crazy.
Why wouldn't that be taken off?
Yeah, good question. I think there's so much in Obamacare that is, and thanks for your call, Scott. We appreciate it.
Well, the question is, who wouldn't want to be able to purchase insurance whenever they wanted to, you know?
Well, what sane person?
Exactly.
Well, it's insane that you would ever limit something like that. That's what you get out of socialism. That's what you get with scarcity. With you can only get bread once a week in line. You can only buy insurance 3 months a year. It's insane, stupid, counterproductive. It's Obama.
Yeah, it just seems that nobody's even brought that one up. It seems weird, to say the least.
It is really weird. All right, thanks for your call.
Yeah,
thanks guys.
Appreciate your listening. So if you want to get into a quick tete-a-tete with the man himself, Roger Stone, and myself, Tyler Nixon, 877-300-7645. Again, 877-300-7645. Let's get back to the excellent and great man in the street, the Mediaite roving reporter, stand-up comic, and all-around great American, Travis Irvine. Travis, healthcare.
Yes, sir.
What is your take on that? I confess, I'm like Roger. I'm sort of a healthcare bores me, frankly, until I'm sick, I guess. But it's a Democrat issue from Jump Street, and the fact that Republicans feel they have to, quote, replace Obamacare is conceding half of the game right there. So, it doesn't interest me that much, but obviously it's a big issue to a lot of people. What is your take on how it went down, just sort of at a glance?
Well, I mean, the healthcare debate has always been complicated, but I think you guys have nailed it here. This is crony capitalism. This isn't even venturing so much in the world of socialism versus capitalism. What we have and what we had before Obamacare and then Obamacare doubled down on was crony capitalism. And now you guys talked about it. It seems that Paul Ryan's trying to get in on the game as well. These bills are written by the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies. And this is something that both libertarians on the right and progressives on the left oppose. They can work together. They appear to have somewhat worked together to help kill the Ryan Care bill this week. I'm excited to see what the Freedom House Caucus is going to inject into this debate. And really, it's like you guys said, we've got to take on the insurance companies, these corporations that are profiting off of the American people. I mean, even progressives and libertarians, I saw the town hall in healthcare on CNN. I know it's fake news and everything, but it was between Ted Cruz and Bernie Sanders, and they agreed on certain issues of buying health insurance across state lines and buying medicines over country lines from places like Canada where these drugs are cheaper. So these are things that will help people, but the only folks keeping those things out of these bills currently are the corporations, are the big crony capitalism corporations. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. But like Roger said, you probably get a better bill here down the line.
I'm sure we will. Let's get to Bill in Texas. Bill, welcome to Stone Cold Truth.
That's a better bill. Just an idea. I was hoping that Mr. Stone could transmit to President Trump. What we really need are mobile ICBMs, not more aircraft carriers, because Admiral Hyman Rickover said that the surface fleet will last about 2 to 3 weeks in a war. They're very vulnerable because the satellites know exactly where they are. But mobile ICBMs are very much more easy to hide. And we don't have any of those. It would increase our security if we had mobile ICBMs rather than very vulnerable aircraft carriers. And I was hoping he could transmit that to President Trump.
I will mention it to him. I'm hardly an expert on national defense, but it sounds like a good point, and I will pass it on to him. Of course, the whole point is that although we have to deal with the loose end of ISIS, if we would stop having an interventionist foreign policy, perhaps we wouldn't have problems like ISIS, and we could go back to building a national defense as a deterrent. peace through strength. This is a concept goes back to Barry Goldwater and before him Dwight Eisenhower. This is, I think, what the Pentagon is really upset about. They didn't get their expanded proxy war over Syria. They were licking their chops. More buns, more guns, more blood. How wonderful! A no-fly zone in Syria is an invitation for World War III, and that's why the deep state is so very disappointed. Thanks for your call. I will pass it on to the Prez.
Thank you very much. Bye.
So let's get to Julian in Texas, and real quick though, I have to say, the neocons thought they had the game sewn up with the Republican field and then Hillary Clinton until Donald Trump came into the equation. Julian, welcome to Stone Cold Truth.
Yeah, hi guys. Very honored to speak with you. So with Nunes coming out and going to tell President Trump, what was really going on, you think that's going to turn the tide enough? Because the Democrats are just ridiculously out of it with all they're doing. Not that they're going to ever say, okay, we see the truth now, but that they'll finally stop this.
Yeah.
Well, the problem, the question here, of course, is that some people in the Obama administration have real serious jail time type legal vulnerability in terms of what they have done. And I think Chairman Nunes reminds me of, a young Richard Nixon in 1947 going after Hiss. He is acting courageously. He is making some tough decisions. I would not have given this to Schiff. Schiff would have had it in the hands of the media within seconds. This man cannot be trusted. He attacks Nunes for leaking when he's leaking himself. So, yes, I think this is the beginning of the end. When this is over, it is conceivable that Mr. Comey, Mr. Rogers, Loretta Lynch, Ash Carter, James Clapper, these people could all be in prison because they have broken serious laws, and now they don't have the means to cover it up. Now
Travis,
Donald Trump has the Attorney General.
Parting thoughts, Travis, last minute.
Well, it's a battle that's going to continue. I hope people on the left realize that the deep state does not always have our country's best interest in mind. So let's proceed and get the real truth, the stone cold truth out there.
Amen. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week, Travis. It's very true that the left doesn't care. They don't care about what truth is or justice, and they certainly will use anything at their means, including deep state intelligence, even if it's against their titular values as they may be. Roger, parting thoughts.
This has been another great show. I hope we've explained to people the distance between the connection between the phony Russian collusion and the illegal wiretapping of a president. We'll have more for you next week on the Stone Cold Truth right here from the Stone Zone on the Genesis Communications Network.